So we start right here with this stuff which is already open. If you remember the last video, you will remember that I bought some glue. And this glue came with these application precision things. I'm not sure what the right word is for that. But basically this is some kind of silicone material, and these are these really thin tubes almost, and you can basically do some serious precision application with these little tubes. The only downside is when it comes to this glue, once it is into this tube, it dries out and then you cannot really use it anymore. So it's basically you can only use it once and then you will unfortunately need to get rid of it. It's a little bit different with this little bottle right here. This is clock oil, and here I also have one of these application tubes on. You can see if we compare them, these ones are actually even longer than the one on here. Maybe this one is a little bit thinner, so I would just keep this on there. But yeah, I've been using this for, I think, oiling a motor in a PlayStation 2 disk drive. So a few of the motors which are used in there, and this is absolutely perfect. It gets right under there into these small spots you need to work with, and this is absolutely perfect. So for that, and of course also since I cannot really reuse these little tubes, I just bought 100 of them, I think. Yes. So just have a bit of supply and I can just use them however I want, which is pretty great. Really handy, definitely pick this up. It's definitely not expensive. I should probably leave all the prices and links in the description if you want to grab it for yourself, for example, or just want to check out all the products. So with that one out of the way, we can move on to the next item. And again, I have no idea what's in all of these boxes. So we will find out together. And we are going to start with some scissors. I think these are supposed to be scissors graded for electricians. So it even says on here sharp, rust resistant and durable. So I think with these scissors you are supposed to cut through metal and stuff to pretty sharp objects. So if you take it out of here, these are the scissors. Pretty thick isolation around it. So I guess in theory if you were to touch something under power, I do not think it will get to you very fast, but it's not rated for any type of voltage, so definitely do not try that. But yeah, I really like the size of the scissors. These are relatively small, even if I compare them to the scissors I normally use for, I don't know, cutting plastic, for example, or cutting off pieces of tape. That you can definitely use them for lots of applications. These are definitely pretty sharp, so definitely watch out with that. And yeah, this just cuts through it very easily. In comparison with this has more resistance, but also has been used way more, so maybe not a completely fair comparison there. But yeah, the reason I got them is more so for really cutting to these thin metal plates, for example. Not that I have anything around for that right now, but it seems really handy to at least have a type of scissors that can cut through that. And not that I have to rely on these pliers or anything, which is not going to be strong enough. And I will need to abuse them a little bit to then get what I want. Nice pair of scissors, I think, and should come handy in the future for sure. And here we have a lot of silicone tubing. The only reason I got this type of tubing is purely for this soldering sucker, which this one is by Engineer. It's a pretty well-known brand, I think. So I will just get this out of here and just cut off a little piece. Guess we might as well use these new scissors for that. I still have some silicone tubing somewhere, but of course I have lost that a long time ago. So I will just get this on here and then I will find out if I actually ordered the correct size. Of course I have measured it, but yeah, you never really know if it is really going to fit. But yeah, this seems to be pretty perfect. I think it's maybe a little bit more flexible than the original silicone tubing that came with this. You can definitely see the original one is a bit more thicker in comparison to the other one. But I don't think it's too bad. And even if I just press on it in my hand, it definitely holds up well. So should do the job in terms of actually desoldering. So I will leave this on there. I will get rid of this one. This one has had its best time. So I will leave this fresh new tubing on there. And at least I will have plenty of supply for this. So I can just replace it whenever it's needed, so pretty nice. Also not too expensive at all. I'm curious about this one. I have no idea what's in there. And it looks interesting with the green packaging. Can't say I have ever had that. And here we have some, I guess this is more or less meant to go on a needle, for example, so you can stop leakage of different type of liquids. For precisely the reason I bought this is for this type of thing, which this is just very thin and fluid. This is a solder mask. It's the 3-second fast dry solder mask. So if I put it on a motherboard, I put a UV light on there. It will only take, well, I think maybe 5 seconds and then it's completely dry and hard. So really good stuff. Unfortunately, difficult to keep in a needle. In combination with something like this, I like to keep my flux and stuff stored like this with the needle and something to protect it over there, but not really possible for this one since it was just leaking all this solder mask out of there, so it would just fill up this tube and then of course it's a bit wasteful and not very handy at all. So if I grab a needle which I would like on there, on here, which this is I think a good example, it's not very visible, but this is definitely pretty thin. It's a nice needle for this application. I should be able to take this off and I need to be fast since this is very leaky. As you can see. So then we should be able to get this on here. And then we can put one of these things over here and this should do the job in keeping all of this stuff into place without needing to install the tubing if I want to use this. I mean, I just prefer to store things like this in this way where it's pretty much ready to use very quickly. So I hope this will do the job. I will let you know if it doesn't. And for the rest of it, I have quite a few more of these. I'm not sure how many are in here. Maybe 20 at least. Not sure how many I ordered. Just went with whatever was the cheapest, I guess. So, but yeah, in theory, this looks really nice. So I hope they will work as well in practice. So we move on to the next package. Plural. So we will quickly go to this one. And yes, I ordered another one of these glue types. So I have already used the glue pretty frequently, I want to say. I mean, I can maybe show it a little bit. We go a bit backwards. I recently made this little wire thing right here where I keep my wires on. It's definitely very DIY, but for example, this piece you see right here where the metal thing right here sits on, this is completely glued. I know there is some zip ties around there, but this is pretty loose and doesn't really do anything. So this is all purely glued with this instant glue and it holds up pretty well. I can't say anything else. As well as if you look on this side, in here, you can see this little white gear in the middle and that has also been glued to the black piece around there. And again, it holds up pretty well. It's doing the job perfectly fine. So, I mean, yeah, I was pretty enthusiastic about this glue, so I thought, why not order some more, since I think the only downside I have is that this is pretty thin, which means if you use this pretty frequently, you will definitely go through this pretty quickly. I already had 2 of these type of glue, so I just ordered a third one, so should be good for a little while, but definitely works really well. And again, we get one of these little tube thingies right here, which is also pretty nice to have. So happy with that. Then we move on to the next thing, which is not glue. Well, it's not a typical type of glue. This is a also, I think, almost, well, it's maybe not the same brand, but basically the same type of product if you look at the packaging. So it might as well have been the same brand. It's not your typical glue, but this is basically a adhesive for metal, rubber, and plastic. So it's basically some kind of special bonding thing. Yeah, its specific purpose is for bonding pieces of plastic or pieces of metal. So what the specific purposes of this item is, for example, if you have a piece of rubber, maybe even a rubber belt, for example, and that has broken, you could use this to glue it together. Or if you have a soccer ball, for example, and there's a hole in there, you could cure it with this stuff. So it's basically a little bit gooby, I think is the best way to describe it, and you can basically patch holes, for example, or something like that. So it's a little bit different than glue. It's a bit more thicker. It's more supposed to be filling, I think, and sticky. So it's a bit of a different type of glue in comparison to the super glue, but I thought it would be handy to have around in case I would need something like that. So I will definitely give it a try for sure if I have the chance. Then we move on to the next item, and we might as well go to this one. If you happen to have seen the previous unboxing, you might have an idea of what this is. Otherwise, you will find out right now. These are more mechanic ceramic tweezers. So in the last video I bought one, since I did not really feel like spending the money for two, but I liked the ceramic tweezers, the bent with the bent tip so much that I just had to get the straight tip version as well. So here I got that. So these are the ceramic straight tweezer variation. I think I have the same commentary as on the bent ceramic tweezers. I mean, they both feel really nice. They have a bit of weight to them, but also not too much. So it's not super heavy. Also, doesn't feel super cheap. So it's basically a perfect in between, in my opinion. They're also nice and tall. And again, I already had some ceramic tweezers, but yeah, those are pretty cheap and pretty old at this point. Definitely more than 5 years, I think. I got them from Amazon a long time ago. And even if we compare them side to side, you can see how much smaller these fonts are. And yeah, these have had their best time. I mean, they surely can have the purpose, but I'm more than happy to be using these as my basic ceramic tweezers. Since the quality of these is definitely very decent. So, I mean, if you are in need of a pair of ceramic tweezers, definitely just pick both of them up at the same time. It's a little bit cheaper than if you buy them separately. I mean, I definitely should have done that the first time, but oh well. Then we move on to the next package. But it was the thicker 1mm stuff. Has already come in very handy. I mean, again, we go back to my wire creation right here. You can see I used it actually so it can block the wire which are in here from just floating around. It should hold it back a bit, and here you can see it in working. That it basically blocks the wire and keeps it nicely into its lane, basically. I also wanted a little bit of a different type of wire as well, which is also a little bit thicker than the stuff I had, but it's relatively thin, so definitely for trace repair. I should see what type this is. This is 0.1mm, so 10 times as small as what I just showed you. So really thin, but still I think thicker than the stuff that I already have. So what we have on the left right here is what I already had. This is on the right side. And I would swear that one I just got is thicker. I think it also reflects a bit more light, as you can see. But yeah, it's both pretty damn thin. But I thought it would be handy to have some more variation of wires for different types of trace repair, since you do not always want the thinnest wire for trace repair. But definitely if you work in controllers and such, might be handy. But if you need to work on thicker boards, or maybe boards that have just a bit more space for thicker wire, you might as well want to use that. Why make life difficult? So I thought I should get some thicker stuff. And yes, this is just some more of these plastic sticks, I almost want to call them. Really handy if you're working on mobile phones, for example. And you need to get all of these ribbon cables out once you have the screen upwards like this. It's very tight space to work in, so these ones are a must for that. But I also like to use them to poke around the motherboard. Maybe if I have some power on there, since of course with plastic you cannot really short anything out. But yeah, what happens with these things sometimes is that the tip gets a little bit bent, which can be handy, but yeah, at some point they do wear out. So I think I already had bought some, but I just wanted to buy some more since, I mean, right now these things are so cheap. Might as well pick up some more. So in this case, I got the green ones, and yeah, this is just for stock purposes. Just to have around, just to have enough for in the future. I already ordered some in the past and never had any problems, so I ordered some more. Next package. No idea what's in here. Alright. So this is a bit of a locking system, and there is a pretty specific reason why I got this, and I don't even know if it's going to work for what I want to use it for. But of course I can show you that. So if I lift the camera a bit. So if I take this out of here we have a drumming tool, which used to be for my late grandfather. And this used to have basically a piece of plastic on here, which of course if you put it down like this, it would click onto here. But these have broken off a long time ago, so he just put this piece of wire to here and basically keep the case together. I thought maybe I could give it a bit of a more permanent fix, which I hope to achieve with this type of thing. It's definitely intended for this. I just don't know if the sizing is correct. So if I look at this quickly, I think these ones are basically supposed to go here. And then on the top side, you are supposed to install them with these screws right here. And they're supposed to be maybe a little bit more flexible. So you should be able to take them out maybe. Yeah, like that, and then they should lock into place. Not sure if that is correct. It doesn't really seem to want to fit in here. Yeah, maybe it's supposed to sit like this. It does seem to be pretty tight, so maybe you just need to push this into here, and then it's supposed to be locked. I will need to look into that a bit more, but the idea is to get those two onto here, and then it's a bit more of a permanent fix instead of having this wire, which you need to take in and out, with the risk of if you grab it incorrectly, then everything falls out obviously, and we do not want that. For now this will still need to do. I will need to figure out how this is supposed to be locked exactly, but should be alright of course. So let's move on to this one. And this is for mechanic, pretty much infamous at this point. And this is a little piece of aluminium or metal or whatever. It's pretty heavy actually. It's pretty solid. And yeah, the purpose is basically to hold any item. So for example, I just got my tweezers. Maybe it's not the best example, it's pretty large. I mean, I think its original purpose is actually for soldering tips. So if I take, for example, this one, should be able to store it in there, and you can see it actually stays nicely into place. So definitely solid material for sure, but I already have enough place to store my soldering irons. So my idea was to basically put things into there which I frequently need when repairing. For example, Flux, which does really fit nicely with this plastic piece right here. I just have different things into here which you frequently use for repair. Or if you really have a lot of soldering tips, if you maybe use different cartridges, for example the C45, the C210, the C115, if you have all these variations, of course this is handy for that and also intended for that, but I don't need it for that. I just want something to the side where I can just easily grab the items I need. I used to have them right here on the back where most of my pliers aren't right now, but since I got this new view sector, as you can see right here, it's a little bit annoying to actually grab over there and grab what I need, so just wanted a bit of a different solution for that, which, well, this one thing is pretty perfect for that. So definitely happy with that. So I will just reorganize that later. Now this will just go back to where it belonged. And also just a little update on this. I mean, normally this would leak out instantly. It holds up pretty well so far. You can actually see the red, this solder mask in the tip right here, but it's not actually going out. So it definitely does a really good job. So far, happy. And I definitely have my doubts about that, but seems to be holding up very well. And for the price, I definitely cannot complain. So I think we are almost to all of the items. And here we have, speaking of solder tip holder, I almost forgot about this. I actually ordered some extra solder tips. So both of these are C245 cartridges, since that's what I use. This is a pretty thick tip. As you can see right here, it's definitely a lot of heat transfer possible with this one. If I'm going to work on more consoles, for example HDMI ports, we have those really big ground legs. I think this will do a very good job on getting enough solder on the ground legs. So that's why I got this bigger tip. I do not have anything that can really do a lot of heat transfer. So I thought this would be very handy to have around for that. So I think this will do a really good job. And besides that, I got a different one right here. I kind of got it more out of curiosity than out of need, but this is also a bent tip, but this is not a bent conical tip. Instead, it's basically like this tip, but then it's bent and of course a little bit smaller. I do already have this type of tip, I think. Well, actually, I do not have this type of tip. I thought I had one that's basically the straight version of this, but this is apparently the first one I have, and it's bent. So I thought, and this also is pretty decent for heat transfer, for example, on chip lag. So I thought if I need to deal with a chip which is in a annoying position, where maybe you cannot really get around there very nicely. This will do very handy for that. Of course, because of the angle, it's supposed to be a little easier to actually solder onto there. And I've never really seen this type of tip, so I just want to give it a try. So I think it will do very nicely for in the collection of solder tips. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I hope it's going to work well. I mean, of course, these are all fake JBC tips, so hope they will stand the test of time at least. So it's a package in a package, so keeps it a little bit more exciting. Alright, so this, it looks like it has leaked out of here or something. I have no idea what happened here. And I also did not expect this to be this big, to be honest. But what this is supposed to be, it's basically a silicone rubber, like what it says on here. And it has definitely leaked out of here. That is a little bit unfortunate. It did not really hard out all the way inside. That would be very unfortunate. But basically this is silicone rubber, and where this is really used frequently, you will find this on power supplies a lot. You see a lot of people online that confuse this stuff with leaked capacitors. I think a good example is the original Xbox, where on the output capacitors, so the capacitors that are last in the power supply before you go to the main board, they have a lot of this white stuff on there. And in the past I had to actually replace those output caps, but I did not really have the proper replacement glue for that, so I just put some hot glue around that. Turns out it's not really the best for doing that on a power supply. It does not really work as well as the silicone stuff. Although I've never really sold the power supply, I just use it for myself, so it's fine for that. But I thought it would be handy to pick this up so I can actually replace it. But yeah, it's unfortunate that the tube has not really survived, and I kind of fear that the actual tubing has broken right here. So I really hope that the stuff inside has survived and I can still salvage this a little bit. What is handy, however, is that it does come with a bit of a application tubing. So I think this is the one where you can cut it to size, like you have with those Flux tips sometimes. So you can just do precision application. So that is very handy, since this is of course quite a big tubing and you do not need half the tube for a simple application like putting some power supply caps together so they do not have that much vibration, for example. And here is the last package, which also a package inside of a package. So I will leave this in here, but if you can see, this is heatsink plaster, and what that basically means is that this can be used for example, on transistors or those big transistors that you will find mounted on a heatsink in power supplies also, especially the older ones. You can also definitely find those in Xbox power supplies. You'll find out that to encourage the connectivity of heat into the heatsink, they do have this, you can almost call it thermal paste, but it's not the same as thermal paste. It's definitely a bit of a different product, but it does do a bit of the same job. It just wants to improve the connection between the transistor and the heatsink, so it can do a better job of giving its heat to the heatsink. So I thought it would be handy to have that around so I can just replace it whenever that stuff is bad, since that can definitely happen on older electronics. So I thought I'd pick that up, so should come in handy. And lastly, we have another tube of Flux. So this is Kingbow Flux. It's definitely fake Kingbow Flux. I have no idea if original Kingbow Flux even exists anymore. But yeah, definitely pretty popular. He is used a lot with different repair YouTubers. So I thought I'd just buy it to give it a try, since this stuff is so cheap. It's really only €2, I think. You cannot find any proper Flux on that on the market. I mean, for me, I just like to have a good quality brand Flux. So I like to use MG Chemicals, and if I'm to that bottle, I still have some Chip Quick, which I would like to give a try as well. And I like to have some cheaper Flux, which I can just use to, I don't know, clean up corrosion or to maybe make solder joints more shiny, just for those things where the quality doesn't really matter that much. And it still does the job. So for now, my cheap Flux is this Ameo stuff. It's Ameo M50, actually really nice. I like it more than the Nano Flux, since it's still pretty thin, but it's not as fluid as the Nano Flux. It will not just drip out of the tubing when you have it stored like this. And yeah, I think it still does a pretty good job, actually. I mean, I could definitely still do soldering work with only just that type of flux, but I just like to have a bit of a variation, so I can just pick and choose what I need. So, but just to get myself another cheap flux, I just wanted to try this one since I haven't really tried it, but I have heard good things about it. So we will see how I like it. And it also comes with a little application needle, which is always handy. Although I have plenty of those at this point. But nice that they give it with the actual flux. So I think that is everything we have unboxed today, especially if I put those together in the picture. So yeah, I want to thank you for watching. If this was entertaining, you can leave a like on this video. You can subscribe to the channel. Also check out the previous unboxing episode if you haven't seen it. We definitely open up a much more interesting pack of things, I think, but this is still plenty for the future in the video, so why not? Yeah, subscribe to the channel, and also for more repair content, of course. Normally we will do more repair, especially after these tax duties are going into work per July 1st. So reason for me to buy this much stuff in advance anymore, given all these really annoying rules. So happy to have picked up all this stuff. Should all come in handy at different stages of repair. Yeah, I thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day.